Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers. Everybody's here. Perfect attendance today. Phil Stacey, Nick Giannino, Matt Williams, working our way up, at least on my screen. Nick Kukuru from the Gloucester Times here with us here on MSONewsSports.com and SalemNews.com. And gentlemen, let's begin. Phil, I think we might as well start with lacrosse because you got a story from yesterday, Monday, and of course you're headed to the prep lacrosse game here today, which would be the prep versus Hingham. And on that note, I think we lost Phil.
Oh, boy.
It might have been the way I phrased that. I'm not quite sure, but yeah.
Well, geez, that was a heck of a job by Marblehead yesterday. Shouts to those guys. Wow. I mean, Connor Cronin, for whatever injuries hampered him in the football season, he's on a revenge tour this spring. I mean, for them to be in the Final Four, I think a lot of people kind of looked at them and said, undefeated. Northeastern Conference stinks. Like, you're a neat little team. You're not a real threat. And for that, I think that they've embraced that and put a chip on their shoulder. And Cronin, I think, is like a shoe-in for All-American and really, proven himself to be one of the best players in Eastern Mass. I mean, that's a great story. And I think it's come under the radar a little bit because the prep is so good at lacrosse and also because like most people, none of us knew what to make of Marblehead because the competition in the NEC is so kind of blasé, right? I mean, that's just what it is. We all knew they were going to go undefeated and then see what happens in the tournament, and they're proving it. I mean, that's just a great story for them to go down and shut down the number 2 seed, which it's hard to believe that Duxbury is actually a lower seed than the team that they just beat in Nauset. I mean, that's amazing. And Nick Cooker and I talk about the home field advantage in this round of the tournament all the time, and that makes Marblehead's win even more impressive. I mean, they go all the way to the Cape and beat the number 2 team in the power rankings. I mean, good for them. That is just awesome. That's one of the best stories of the whole school year, if you ask me.
And I'll let Phil pick it up, but the game before, beating Milton, who took them out in the football playoffs in the fall.
Great point.
Was pretty cool too, and the kids were definitely a little bit extra hyped up for that one. They had like you said, a kind of a chip on their shoulder after losing that one, and a lot of football players on the lacrosse team. So yeah, the run's been amazing.
I'll take it back one game further. I mean, that Boston Latin game was there were 2 delays of almost 2 full hours because of thunder, lightning. They played the fourth quarter in a pouring rainstorm, and the game had been a lot closer than it probably should have been. With a 7 versus 26 seed, but Marble had pulled away in the fourth quarter. They obviously used that momentum against Milton. What was it, a 9-0 lead they had, Nick, to start?
Yeah, 9-0 at half, yeah.
And then yesterday, as you said, took them 3 hours and 15 minutes to get down to Eastham on the Cape. Left at 11, got there at 2:15. I said to John Wilkins, "What'd you guys do?" He said, "Well, we stopped at a McDonald's and we stretched." But he stressed we did not eat McDonald's. We just we went there and we stretched a little bit. So they were plenty ready for game time. Excellent. I mean, there weren't a lot of options between there and the bridge that weren't seafood. So I don't know where they stopped. I drove into Plymouth on my way out yesterday. And I love seafood, but I don't know if you get a bus full of high school kids to ordering 25 lobster rolls might get a little bit pricey. But, they played a really talented offensive Nauset team yesterday. I think a big key was really Baxter Jennings winning the majority of the faceoffs in the second half. Both he and John Wilkins were saying the kid that he went up against for Nauset were like clones of each other, really, in terms of technique and style and whatnot. So I asked Baxter what it was that gave him the advantage in that all-important second half, particularly the fourth quarter. And he said, "I just outwilled the guy. I just wanted it more than he did. And because of that, they kept getting possession. They were able to set up shop. And of course, Jennings scored 4 goals of his own. Connor Cronin, 6 goals, assisted on 3 others. He's up to 127 points. I did some math this morning. That's 5th now all time in our region for most points in one season. He's probably not, even if they make it to the state finals, he's probably not going to catch Craig Bowman at Beverly at 145. But second place, Mike Pinciaro, fantastic player in Beverly in his own right, had 130, and Connor's only 3 away from that. So he could easily finish second all time in scoring when this is all said and done. Great defensive work by Marblehead yesterday. Those guys always go unrecognized, but Sam Anisi, Elliot Plus, JJ Pollender, guys like Hogan Sedke with the short stick really did a nice job shutting down that Nauset offense in the second half. And here they are now in uncharted territory, state semifinals against the Duxbury team that's a 9-time state champion, probably a little more balanced than Nauset in terms of strength defensively as well as offense. So, and not a lot of time to prepare for them. They got one day, Tuesday, and then they hit the road again, go down to Weymouth on Wednesday night. So a quick turnaround for Marblehead, but it's a team with a championship pedigree, even if they themselves haven't won titles in lacrosse. There's a lot of football players in that team that won a Super Bowl at Gillette in 2021. Baxter Jennings is a state ski champion. So these are guys who know how to win and get the job done.
Phil, there's two things. Nick and I were at the Milton game, and they were winning faceoffs. They seemed like they won all the faceoffs in that game against Milton, last week. And then you mentioned the scoring leaders there for Marblehead. They finished the regular season with just 18 games, 18-0, albeit. So now they're 21-0 overall into the playoffs. So, they could have had maybe a couple more games, who knows, as far as points go.
Well, they're pushing 300 goals, as a team.
Yeah.
And Cronin's got now 79 goals, which is crazy. But, there are other guys, too, that can get it done. We talk about Jennings. He's a face-off guy, and the term FOGO, face-off, get-off, doesn't really apply to him. He's one of their top midfielders. He's got 44 goals on the year, which is far and away the best of any face-off guy in the region. You got Carter Laramie, another big senior, 49 goals on the year. Marblehead's going to have 2 50-goal guys this year in all likelihood. Charlie Grenier with 31 goals. Cam Waldman, 24 goals. Sophomore Reese Moore has 23 goals. Even Gio Garabato with a huge goal yesterday, late in the fourth quarter, to really kind of cement that lead for Marblehead. He's chipped in with 16 goals. So there's some definite spread out scoring on this team. Yes, Cronin is the main cog offensively. When they need a goal, they go to him. But there are other guys that can pick up that slack too, as you just heard.
Jennings had a few yesterday. Was he shooting it low? Because that's what Connor Cronin kept stressing, that they were working on that with him.
Yeah, that's where he knows to go, Nick. That's a great observation on your part. He, when a goalie gets that stick up and is looking to grab shots, maybe up around his shoulders or that area, Baxter is adept at putting the ball low and beating goalies by their feet or in the corners, and they don't often expect that. In fact, Cronin yesterday, I thought, scored a terrific goal. I called it like a one bounce. He fired it at the ground, and it kind of skip hopped past the goalie that way. Kind of a little caught him off guard, unexpected. Again, he's expecting a straight on shot, and it skip hops like you're throwing a flat rock against a water surface, and it just kind of shot up into the net from there. So goal scorers have a way of scoring different ways, I guess. And we shouldn't, move on without mentioning Finn Miniacci, the Super Bowl goaltender for Marblehead. Another great game yesterday. On a team where you have a ton of offense like Marblehead does, you have a lot of depth. The goalie can sometimes get lost in the shuffle. Oh, they're 21-0 because they score all these goals and all. But Miniacci has played great in the postseason. He's really played great all year. 16 saves again yesterday, some in real crunch time when Marblehead was starting to build that lead a little bit up, and he was the last line of defense stopping things. So I give a ton of credit to Finn, who, making a stop in lacrosse is not as gaudy as scoring a goal or even throwing a nice pass that sets one up, but equally as important in the big picture. And Finn is making it happen for the Magicians.
All right. Phil, do you want to touch on the prep game that's today? They're playing Hingham at Weston today, and you'll be there.
They are, yes. I will be there. Yes, Rose Raymond and I will be going the Rose and Phil show, I guess. So this is the second year in a row they played in the state semifinals against one another. With the prep winning last year, 12-8. Fantastic game a year ago. Saturday, I want to say early afternoon, beautiful sunshine day in Burlington. And that game literally was never more than a goal apart until the fourth quarter. It was, 2-2, 5-5, 8-8. And then the prep finally pulled away in the fourth quarter to win 12-8, thanks to a huge day from Jimmy Ayers. A lot of the same guys for both teams are back. Hingham is very senior laden. They're strong up front. They have great depth in the midfield, very strong defensively, good goaltender. I mean, excellent challenge here for the two-time defending state champs. They played in the last week of the regular season at St. John's with the Eagles winning 12-9, but that game was by no means a prototypical prep, pull away early and cruise to the win kind of thing. So, with St. John's, it's just a matter of balance. Yeah, they have Ayers. Jimmy's got 49 goals. I say only, and I'll put that in air quotes, only 65 points just because of the amazing depth that they have. I mean, St. John's has, I want to say, 15 kids with double-digit points this year, and probably just as many, if not maybe 14 kids with at least 10 goals. So they have a crazy amount of depth. They don't need him to score a ton of goals. I think he has 6 in the postseason so far, but that's probably in the equivalent of maybe a game and a little more than half of their 3 playoff games that he's actually needed to be on the field. Matty Morrow's got 38 goals. Cam McCarthy, sophomore, is coming on, had a really nice season, 17 goals, 17 assists. Jake Vanna, 16 goals, 18 assists, despite missing the first 6 games with an injury. Lucas Verrier, 22 goals. Will Sawyer, Luke Kelly, both with 21 goals. Harlan Graber had a really nice postseason so far. He's got 18 goals. So they can get goals from any one spot. If Hingham decides they want to face guard Ayers or stick 2 guys on him at any time or whatever kind of zones they play, there are plenty of other guys that can step up and put the ball in the net for St. John's. Where they've really made their bread in this state tournament, Bill, is defensively. I think they've only allowed, 4 goals so far this postseason? Let me think. No, 6 goals. 6 goals because Barnstable scored a couple against the backups. But they've only allowed 6 goals, 3 by the starting goaltender, Gavin Konitsky. He's been outstanding. Defensively, you're talking all kinds of guys like, let me think here. You got Jack Weissenberger, you got Ryan DeLucia, you got Sam Wilmot, you got Nicky Shibley, you got Brady Plaza, you got Kurt Schillinger, you got Adam Perot. Who else am I forgetting here? Jack Doherty, a backup faceoff guy. A lot of guys that can step up and make stops when they need to, use both their body and those long poles to ward off offensive threats and keep the crease clear in front of Kornitsky. They're going to have their biggest test of the day today against Hingham. I think a Hingham team that, as I stated, lost in last year's semifinal, lost a couple weeks ago at St. John's Prep. They're going in as the underdog against a top seed. They know they got nothing to lose, and they have a ton of skill of their own. If people are writing them off, that's a big mistake. So the Prep is really going to have to bring their best game defensively to win it today.
All right, we've got Newburyport also still alive in the D3 boys, but let's go to girls lacrosse here. Newburyport's alive there as well. They'll be playing Foxborough on Wednesday, tomorrow. Girls lacrosse, Nick Giannino and Nick Kukuru may want to weigh in on this one. Ipswich taking on Manchester Essex tomorrow, Wednesday at Whittier, 6 p.m. So Nick Kukuru, why don't we begin with you in Manchester Essex, and then I'm sure Nick will want to weigh in as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that should be a great one. They played twice in the regular season, 6-4 Ipswich win and a 7-6 Ipswich win. So, 2 defensive games and 2 tight ones. Manchester Essex playing really well right now. They went to Nantucket, as we talked again, winning on the road in the quarterfinals is a tough ask, and they kind of dominated Nantucket. 10-4 win. It was 2-2 early, and they just kind of took off from there. Really smothered them with possession. They were real patient. Just kind of, it was like death by a thousand cuts. Nantucket was having trouble winning faceoffs, and Manchester Essex just kind of smothered them. Just great passes, smart passes, and they won 10-4. So when they're spreading the ball around like that, they're real tough to stop. They have a few scores. Mercedes O'Neal is probably their best scorer. They also have Sylvie McCavanagh, Paige Garlitz, who was a star field hockey player, goalie as well. She's one of their leading scorers as well. And then they have a really good goalie, Bridget Caravolano, is only a sophomore, and she's a real weapon for them as well. So they're riding high. They're playing well. They're certainly the underdogs, which is the 1 seed for a reason. But it's tough to beat a team 3 times, and those first 2 matches were super close. And there's going to be no secrets between the 2 teams, that's for sure.
Yeah, before I touch on that, I just want to give a shout out to Hamilton Wenham and the season they had. They fell to number 2 Weston in the quarterfinals, but it was a 17-15 game, back and forth throughout. They just came up a little short on the road against a really good team who's obviously in the Final Four now on the other side of the bracket. So great season for Hamilton Wenham under first-year head coach Emily Leyland, and they found a superstar there in Evie Bernard, the freshman, who was just tearing it up, and she continued to score, pile up the goals in the postseason. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out. But the other Cal team going against Manchester over there, Ipswich, yeah, they picked up a nice win, 9-8 over Mount Greylock in the quarterfinals to get to that point. I was at that game. They got off to a great start. It was 4-0, but it was kind of a sloppy game. You didn't feel like they were really 4 goals better than them, I guess you could say. It had the makings that you could tell that Mount Greylock had some talent. They were going to be able to make a run, and they did, and they tied it up a couple times, but Ipswich just stuck with it and was able to make the plays down the stretch. Hallie Greenleaf had a terrific game. She's their leading scorer. She had 4 goals, I believe, dished out an assist. She was everywhere. She was taking a beating. We were laughing about it after the game because she tends to draw a lot of double teams and things of that nature, and she's hitting the deck here and there. And, the refs, they'll blow the whistle, but sometimes they miss it. And, she kind of gets beat up a little bit out there, but she battled through it and came through for her team. So big win for them at home over Mount Greylock. They got a huge defensive stand in the final minute where Greylock, who had a couple really talented goal scorers that were kind of doing all the damage all afternoon, so they had the ball with a minute left and they had a chance, but Ipswich forced a turnover, which is something they've been doing very well all season. Their defense has come to play, a lot of interceptions, things of that nature, getting on transition. So could be another defensive battle against Manchester Essex. Like Nick said, they've seen each other twice. They've been low-scoring games, 7-6, 6-4, and Ipswich has got the best of them twice, but it's tough to beat a team 3 times in 1 year, especially when they're, just as talented as you and you're having close games like this. So that's going to be a fun one. Could go either way. And, Nick and possibly myself will have coverage from that one on Wednesday afternoon at Whittier Tech, but kind of nice for the travel too, right? We don't have to go to here for a Final Four game with 2 Cal teams. So
wait a minute. Wait, you're telling me that is Whittier not out on the Cape? Is that what you're telling me?
It's not out on the Cape. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Right to my old stomping grounds, actually.
All right.
Going to Weymouth tomorrow is going to be like a picnic. Hey, you mentioned, Nick, Haley Greenleaf, and I think we've said before on this podcast that her dad, Hallie, I'm sorry. Her dad, Mark, was a great athlete, football lacrosse guy at Ipswich. Bill, you'd mentioned the Newburyport girls who look well on their way to winning the state title. One of their best players, Reese Bromby, her dad, Chris Bromby, was another superstar at Ipswich High, one of their all-time leading scorers. So those Tiger bloodlines running strong here into the 21st century.
Greenleaf has been excellent. I mean, they got a really balanced attack, and I believe, you'd have to ask Nick, but I think Manchester's kind of the same way, right? Really balanced attack. 100 goal scorer, anything like that. Greenleaf is somewhere around 60, 70 points on the season, leading the way, but ton of girls stepping up for that team. I mean, I could go down the list. And defensively, Ashton Flather has just been a monster in that.
And she was just named All-America, right?
Yeah, All-American.
Oh, yeah.
For I think they both did. I believe her sister did as well, Caden. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, yeah, they're a really balanced team, so it's good to see.
All right, from lacrosse, we're going to go to the Diamond here. Very quickly, just for our listeners, St. Mary's is playing today in the D2 state semifinal. In softball, Peabody also playing today in the state semifinal against Central Catholic. More on that in a moment. But we also have Fenwick playing tomorrow against Norton out at UMass Dartmouth, or down at UMass Dartmouth in the D3 semifinal as well. And Triton is still alive as well, and they're in the state semifinal tomorrow night out at Worcester against Middleborough. So, Matt, maybe you want to pick it up with the Peabody Central Catholic game that's later on this afternoon at Lowell.
Yeah, big game. I mean, should be interesting. Big ballpark. I think Peabody is going to have to play the outfield really well. This Central Catholic team is a team that has hit the ball all season long. I mean, they have 253 runs in 23 games. So whatever that is, that's a lot of runs per game. They've scored more than 5 runs in a game 19 times this year. And, I think Abby Betancourt, the Peabody pitcher, has allowed 5 runs in a game once in 3 years in high school, maybe twice. So that's a something's got to give situation right there. I mean, either that offense is going to mash or she's going to shut it down. And it's one of those fascinating, matchups that we live for in sports, right? To see which way it's going to go, because Central Catholic just has not been challenged to this point in this tournament. I mean, the score is 16-3, 14-2, 10-0. That's just not even close. That's St. John's Prep lacrosse like. Even Beverly coach Megan Sudak tweeted after they lost to Central 16-3 that it was the most talented team that they played all year, which, I'm not sure if that was supposed to be in reference to the other team, or if maybe some people in Peabody were reading too much into that. But, that's certainly an interesting reference there. It's a great game. I mean, it's just one of those games that you can really sink your teeth into as far as offense versus defense. And Central's no slouch defensively either. Their pitcher, Julia Malowitz, seems to be a mirror image of Abby Betancourt just in terms of their overall skills. They're both leadoff hitters. They're both dangerous base stealers. They're both ranked in the top 5, top 10 of their respective junior classes, both National Honor Society kids. So, I mean, you got 2 of the absolute best probably in New England in the class of 2024 in Malowitz and Betancourt. I mean, it's a heck of a take, and it's going to be fun to see how it unfolds. Unfortunately, by the time most people listen to this, it'll probably be over.
You got a feeling one way or the other, Willie, on how that's going to turn out?
I'm sorry? You
have a feeling one way or the other how it's going to turn out?
I don't. I mean, I think it's really hard to pick. I mean, I think, I think from 10,000 feet, like, Abby's just that good, right? But, this team has played some good pitching there in the Merrimack Valley. Their only loss was Billerica. They had a low-scoring game against Tewksbury, which had a really good pitcher. So, I mean, they've seen certainly good pitching. I think Peabody, in some ways, being the lower seed and batting first, having the opportunity to strike first, maybe get a lead, I think will be crucial for them. And I just think, like, this is one of those games where Central Catholic swings a bat's pretty good. They're going to put some balls in play, and it's going to be up to Peabody to make the plays. They're going to have to play better in the outfield than they did in the state final against Taunton last year. I mean, they had a couple of plays out there that, I wrote at the time, they weren't errors per se, but they were misplays that sort of turned singles into doubles or doubles into triples or potential flyouts into singles. And you just have to mind your P's and Q's at this stage of the game. I mean, you just got to expect that Abby's not going to strike out 15, 18 against an offense like this, right? She's probably going to strike out 8 or 9. And on those balls that are in play, you got to make the plays and limit the damage. And I think that could potentially be really, what decides the game. And Peabody's infield has been outstanding. I mean, Logan Lamazny at shortstop made 2 or 3 diving line drive plays to hold off North Andover in that great extra innings game on Sunday. Kylie Doolin at the corner has been great. Lizzie Betancourt at first has made a lot of good scoops. So, their infield defense is phenomenal. Abby fields her position as well as anybody in the state. But, on some line drives that maybe hit the outfield in a college ballpark at UMass Lowell, that's a little bit more ground to patrol. That's something that you have to get used to. Maybe you're playing a little bit deeper and you got to learn how to track the ball, keep it in front of you, Whereas in the small ballparks in the NEC, you're probably playing in, right? And maybe catching those balls. So that's always a challenge this time of year in baseball and softball is playing in those college ballparks and adjusting the outfield accordingly.
Maybe you guys could comment, or Matt or Phil, one of you guys on the Fenwick softball win. So Phil, a moment ago, you mentioned how Marblehead went down to Nauset this week and won on the road. But at the same point in the tournament on the softball side, Fenwick went to St. Mary's, the #1 seed, won down there to get into the Final Four as well. So now tomorrow they'll be playing a Norton team, but big win. Although I know it's not the same playing a league rival in their ballpark over at Breed. For Fenwick on the road, opposed to maybe going down to the Cape, a 3-hour drive. But yet, still, the comparison could be made there. But obviously, a stunning win for the Fenwick softball team this week at St. Mary's.
I think it shows what pitching's capable of doing, Bill, at this point in the tournament. I mean, Gigi Opont just shut down St. Mary's for 9 innings. And, to shut down a team that good for 7 innings is one thing. To go 2 extra innings and do so is really amazing. And, I think, as Willie just alluded to with Peabody, having first at bats could benefit them. I think that really helped Fenwick the other day because they were able to get 2 runs across the board in the 9th inning. And then they send Opont back out there with a 2-run lead. I mean, if she's rolling like that, they're probably not going to give that up. So great win for the Crusaders. As you mentioned, now they're going to hit the road to play Norton. And I want to say they're 21-2. Again, Fenwick will be the underdog, but if Opon is locked in and they can get some of those timely base runners and move them along and drive them in, who knows what could happen? I mean, why bet against them at this point?
Fair enough.
And they got the Angel with them, right? They're playing for their teammate there, and that's just a hell of a story. Incredible, truly. When I'm trying to look it up here quickly, I mean, the last time that the Fenwick softball team made it to a state final, I mean, you got to be going back
96, I think.
quite a ways. They got to the state semis in 2004. So 19 years since they've been this far, that's pretty impressive for them. I mean, that's really truly amazing. Their last championship, was in 96.
I mean, Fenwick Triton final would be pretty cool, I would say, if it worked out that way. Have a North Shore flavor to it. Of course, Middleborough on the other side of the bracket, and Norton will have a say in that. But interesting that I would say that Division III softball that Fenwick and Triton are both in is probably one of the few statewide spring brackets that both the 1 and 2 seeds are not involved in the Final Four. 1 or the 2, I should say.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, we have a few minutes left. Nick, I don't know if you want to touch Nick Giannino, if you want to touch on tennis at all or anything, but feel free to go there.
Yeah, I mean, we had 3 teams alive as of yesterday. St. John's Prep went down to Newton and took on Lexington, who had handed them their only loss in the regular season with a 3-2 decision. Turned out to be the same score on Monday. St. John's Prep lost 3-2. They were right there in pretty much every match. Just couldn't get over the hump. I did want to highlight their freshman John DeAngelis at third singles pulled out a 3-setter after dropping the first set in a tiebreak. He won the second set in a tiebreak and then won 10-0 in a super tiebreak after the match was already decided. So that was a gutsy win to make it a 3-2 score rather than 4-1. And they're going to return 5 of their 7 varsity starters. So St. John's Prep will be right back in the mix. Longtime head coach Mark Metropolis is really excited about the direction the program's going in right now. Not to say that they've been down in recent years, but they hadn't been to the state semifinals like that since 2011. So quite the run for them this year. They're going to be graduating their first singles guy, Paul Neal, as well as one of their doubles players, Ben Liptak, who had a great season. But outside of them, like I said, 5 of the 7 coming back, and they'll have some more talent coming up the woodwork. So keep an eye on St. John's Prep in the next couple seasons. And then we do have Hamilton Wenham boys and girls still alive. The boys are playing this afternoon, so you might hear this after the result, but they're going to be down at Newton South as well, taking on Weston, a really good team that I think they wanted to play. You know, they know they got to beat the best to be the best, and I think they took them on in a scrimmage or something during the regular season and came up short. But you never know what could happen. They're playing some really good tennis back in the state semifinals, so we'll see what happens in that one this afternoon. And then the girls, of course, play tomorrow. Wednesday afternoon, and they're going to be, who the heck are they playing? Why am I drawing a blank? And that's going to be at St. John's Shrewsbury. But the girls, obviously,
Lennox Memorial. Oh,
yeah,
I thought it was at St. John's Prep. It's at St. John's of Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
okay.
not making Lennox come all the way here.
Manchester Essex is at St. John's Prep. Manchester Essex girls against Linfield.
Oh, there you
Perfect.
go.
Yeah.
The winner
Okay.
of that will probably get Hamilton Wenham.
The Cal tennis is showing up this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, the girls obviously defending Division IV state champs, so they're trying to get back to that point. And they got pretty much the same team as they did last year, and they're playing just as good, if not better, tennis. So I would ride with them. I'd pick them. You know, they got it going right now.
I want to
Yeah,
say,
but-
to put into perspective, if they play whichever one of the Cal teams, didn't they beat? I think they beat Manchester Essex twice 5-0. And Manchester Essex is really good, so
Yeah,
it's going to be a tall
surprised.
task for whoever's playing them.
They're stacked down the line.
Who did they lose to? Masco?
Maybe Newburyport.
No, Newburyport, correct.
Oh, Port. Okay, Port.
And Port is an absolute wagon. I don't think they've
Yeah,
lost.
I mean, imagine if Masco was still in the Cal and they had all three teams. That would be wow.
Right. I know. Yeah, we didn't even
So-
touch on Masco.
Yeah.
Obviously a great season for them too, and they're the defending Division II state champs, so they got a chance to get it done again. And like Hamilton Wenham, they brought back pretty much the same starting lineup. So that cohesiveness, that experience, definitely playing a big factor in these couple runs by our local tennis teams.
We have
And-
we have Linfield still alive in the boys in D3, and you mentioned Newburyport and the girls still alive. Masco, we just talked about. Obviously, Hamilton Wenham we talked about. But Nick, anything more you want to share, Nick Kukuru, on the Manchester Essex girls team and their season and the game coming up?
Yeah, I mean, they're back in the state semis. This is the third straight year. I want to say the fourth time in the last 5, and they reached the state finals in 2021 and they won in 2018. So they're no stranger to this time of year. This is usually
Yeah.
where they're facing the cream of the crop. But they beat Linfield 4-1 in the regular season. I know that doesn't mean a ton now, but that could be a decent indicator for what's to come tomorrow.
All right, gentlemen,
Masco girls will take on Bishop Stang in that semifinal matchup, and that's tomorrow at Newton South at 4:30.
Gotcha. All right, gentlemen, let's say we got a minute left here. Anything we should be paying attention to later on this week other than the tournament action? We've kind of gone over all that. Anything to look ahead to?
I think we got to pay our respects to the Iron Sheik passing. Myself, it was a devastating blow to the sports world and life in general. I mean, Sheik's daily affirmations on Twitter, I think, pumped all of us up, and he spread joy and peace and harmony throughout the world. So, Willie, you're the wrestling expert. If you want to, expound upon that.
Ah, what a hero of a guy. I mean, I think people kind of in this day and age get, you get lost a little bit in the Sheik's online persona and the Howard Stern stuff and the goofiness and the cursing and the performative kind of fun that he had. But I would recommend anybody go on A&E and watch the biography about his early life. I mean, this is a guy that escaped the actual Shah of Iran that was a bodyguard for there and came to America and made a life for himself and was a Olympic wrestling coach, for America, an Olympian wrestler, like a true athlete, a true just man of our times. I mean, what a life that he lived, just beyond the funniness. And we all love to share in the funniness and the bubbas and the Shecky babies and that kind of stuff. But
Make you
even
humble.
beyond that, like what a tremendous life that the man lived. I mean, it is just a great watch to get to learn about him and his wife and his family and just his early times, in the 60s and 70s before he became the you know, the dastardly Iranian on television, you know, that made Hulk Hogan.
All right, gentlemen, on that note, we will stop. But thanks so much for our unexpected swerve here at the end, but terrific. And thanks so much.
Needed
We'll
to
talk
be
again
done.
soon. Yeah.
Needed to be done.